Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a pretty short video on section 2 of chapter 7. And so, just introduction to biomes. And so, we talked about climate and the things that affect it in section 1. Now on to section 2. So, these different climates affect where and how organisms can exist, and those general patterns are referred to as biomes. Biomes are a terrestrial landscape, a huge ecosystem that's characteristic of certain things based on climate and soil and plants and animals that are present in those locations. And so biomes can vary based on a couple different things. The two main abiotic factors that affect what a biome is temperature and precipitation. The other thing that can affect a biome is where it is in reference to the equator or the poles, its latitude, and then its elevation. And so here is a map of the world showing all of the major biomes that are present. And so high mountains, you can see the high mountain ecosystems that are present run right with the Rocky Mountains, which it should, and it makes complete sense. The polar ones, polar ice for instance, are located along the poles, which again, there's much logic behind the basic breakdown of where these things would be. You see this pattern of green that starts here and flows all the way over here, all at the same latitude, distance from the equator, that enable the right amount of moisture and temperature to be present to create boreal forests. And so the patterns are pretty universal for biomes around the globe. And here's a breakdown of those major biomes, and we're going to get into that in the next section actually. So generally speaking, when it comes to the effects of elevation and latitude on biomes, as you move up in elevation, you get a transfer or shift from a tropical forest, is usually the lowest of elevations, and then as you work your way up, you get into a deciduous forest, places where it loses trees that lose their leaves and things like that. Then you get the boreal forest, pine trees and that kind of thing. As you work your way up, you can get into tundra, small plants and animals that take a long time to grow. And then you work your way up into mountain and ice and snow at the top. So that effect generally is true when it moves from elevation and into different biomes. The other one is you can get with latitude. So this side of this picture is basically the equator. And then as we move towards the pole, north or south pole, we get the same kind of effect as we did here. So near the equator you have tropical forests. As you move further and further north or south from that equator, you'll get deciduous forests where they lose their leaves. Then you'll get boreal forests, pine trees. Then you get into those small shrub-like areas called tundra, and then you get up in your polar ice and snow. And so elevation or latitude can result in these shifts in biome. Now, remember I told you there were two major abiotic factors that affect that. Precipitation and temperature are those two. And they are limiting abiotic factors that affect how much biodiversity and all that kind of stuff you can have. So as you move up this side scale here, we're reducing temperature. So you can think of this kind of as the equator, and as you move up to the poles, what happens? So lots of temperature will get more of a rainforest look. As it cools down, you get deciduous, then you get boreal forests, and then you get your tundra. Again, same pattern as we did with elevation. And then as you look from wet to dry, there's basically three major categories that comes in biomes. Deserts, which are along this edge. You can have different kinds of deserts depending on the temperature. Tropical deserts, temperate deserts, right? The middle section here is kind of the grassland section. So these are deserts and these are your grasslands down the middle. And so again, you can have different ones based on temperature, but they all fit those same categories. And then this far side over here is the different forest patterns. So you can look at that pattern of precipitation and temperature, and you can get a breakdown of the major biomes. That's it for that section. We'll see more later. Bye.